All right, so today we'll be discussing volunteer management software and if volunteer impact specifically is the right software for your organization. So, who am I? My name is Micah. I am the software sales advisor at Better Impact, and I help support organizations ranging from nonprofits that are smaller to larger scaled, multi-location sized across the United States, specifically the Western half for those exploring new software solutions. I'm a Kansas City guy from the Midwest. I know I'm now in the Pacific Northwest now in Washington State, where I reside with my wife. Some fun things we love doing, especially during this time of the year in July, are going on hikes, national park hikes. We love nature. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get to the top of it. Let's talk about just what we'll be going through in this session today. So we'll be discussing some of the common problems that volunteer service teams are facing, which we all do different types of roles with different volunteer programs, but we'll find there's actually some commonalities in terms of challenges that we have. We'll do a quick Zoom poll. There'll be a quick, like a little questionnaire with 3 questions about just assessing your program and such, discussing a brief survey from G2 on why the right software tools matter. And then the bulk of today's session will be, we'll be doing a high-level overview of volunteer impact or volunteer software, leaving some time with some Q&A at the end. And yeah, just be sure to stick around because there'll be a couple of resources at the end of this session. One of them being a link to receive your PDU credits, professional development unit, for as a certificate for attending today. So yeah, let's go ahead and stick around. All right. So like I said, we come from a variety of different places and we do a variety of different things, but some common challenges we may be experiencing are problems such as too much data entry and not enough time to lead and effectively and engage in our volunteers. And these different tasks can be ranging from maybe you have an embedded form on your website where you're manually inputting in volunteer information for those who are interested in applying to your program. And then all that time is being taken away from you being able to communicate back with them. Like maybe it takes a while to communicate back with the new applicant on what steps they need to take in order to become a volunteer. And then even after that process, tracking all of their information, their personal information, tracking their hours, maybe that's manually being calculated on a spreadsheet, or maybe you're just doing these in a whole bunch of different systems. It's all disconnected. It's not time efficient at all. Now you don't even have enough time to like think, lead, engage, or recruit new volunteers as well, since you're just stuck doing all these mundane tasks that couldn't be done in a system. And all that's kind of sounds all straightforward. These problems alone, you're probably already thinking, okay, yeah, obviously we need an all-in-one solution to manage our volunteers in a database meant for that. But there's still some hurdles that might need to be crossed. Like one, finding a system that's affordable, that meets the budget, that can be a challenge too. And then even once you have that, there's still possibly another hurdle, such as getting approval from leadership. And depending on the type of organization you're with, it can be more of a process for some and others. And then just the last thing to kind of take into consideration with all of that is not only finding the tool that meets your needs, fits the budget, but also ensuring you're finding a system that's going to keep your data secure as well. So that way volunteer data is kept confidential. And what we hope by the end of this webinar is that volunteer impact's a possible all-in-one solution to manage your volunteers in a secure database. And speaking of secure databases, so how can one tell if a VMS vendor is prioritizing data protection? I'd say the easiest way to look for it is to see if the software company themselves have an ISO certification. And what an ISO 27001 and 27017 certifications they're the world's best known standards for information security management system practices. Having the certification means that the VMS vendor respects all the best practices and principles enshrined in this international standard. And an important distinction to know is having this certificate, rather than simply following the guidelines, it's really important because by actually having these certificates, it means that the vendor is being held accountable. There's an independent body that will audit them once per year to making sure that these standards are actually being met rather than them saying that they're following the guidelines. So that certification means accountability, which is an important distinction. And with all this little info here, let's go ahead and do the quick questionnaire. The first one's going to be just based on these last few slides, which problem resonated with you the most? So let me find my little poll right here so we can get this going. Let's launch it. Entering the poll, as we see, the first question was which problem resonated with you the most. And as you get through it, the second question is going to be asking how you're managing volunteers currently. If it's a spreadsheet, another VMS, or something else. And something else always makes me curious. I kind of want to know what other means. A lot of the times it can mean like another CRM or something. So if you want to share, feel free to drop into the chat for how you're managing your volunteers if it's not a spreadsheet nor a VMS. And then the last one, once you get to it, is, in your opinion, what's most at risk if a change doesn't occur sooner rather than later? Volunteer turnover, staff turnover, or disengagement, wasted money, possible damage, or program reputation, or something else. And then I'm going to give people a couple of minutes, maybe another minute or so. I'll end the poll, I'll share the results, and we'll see what we got. So far, we got a crowd of 52 people, so we'll probably get some good data here to share. Should be sharing the results now. So from the first question, which problem resonated the most? More than half at least selected too many disconnected tools, and that's very common. For those that initially meet with me to discuss new software solutions, a lot of the times spreadsheets, outdated systems, this Outlook for like emails. So that result doesn't surprise me at all. Everything else is kind of a mix. So that's a clear standout there. And yeah, let's see. So this crowd, a little over half, we're currently using spreadsheets, which that's actually quite a normal statistic. Like we're in 2024, we think everybody's using some sort of system, but that's not necessarily the case. It feels like around half of those who meet with me, they're currently utilizing a spreadsheet. So doesn't surprise me there. And appreciate Chris sharing what his other response was, and that's volunteer management in Salesforce. That's actually a pretty common response for others, some other CRM, which Salesforce is a pretty common one. Then the last one, so it looks like volunteer turnover, disengagement, the highest, and of course staff. That's definitely, it makes most sense. That's the most important, and definitely a big driver why we're all here today to discuss new solutions to manage volunteers, so that way they're not disengaged and you're not having turnover and your program's growing over time. So appreciate everybody's participation there. Let's go ahead and go to the next part, which is just sharing a couple data points from this survey released by G2 a couple years ago. They surveyed over a few thousand participants, asking a series of questions on job satisfaction and the tools that they're using. And one of the more interesting finds that I found on here was that more than half of employees were unhappy at work because of the software tools that they're using. And that's definitely an interesting find, because if you're not happy at your current role with the tools that you're using, you're not set up for success, and it's just not sustainable in the long term. So it doesn't surprise me at all that in the same survey it was found that around 1 in 8 employees quit a job because of mismatched software. So the fact that this is cited as a reason, the fact that this is a cited reason for people leaving a job, it just speaks to how important it is to set you up for success, to making sure you have the right tools for the job. Turnover is disruptive to progress and goal attainment. So let's turn that around. Let's turn that frown upside down and get you and your team working with the tools that you need to feel less frustrated and rather more empowered and productive when you do your job. So less of this, more of that. Now it's time to explore how volunteer impacts can help you achieve just that. So let's go ahead and switch gears to volunteer impact. Something that's good to know is that this is a web-based solution. Anybody can have their own login to sign into at any point, in which that they can have full access custom access to specific features for what their role is. Appreciate the thumbs up, everybody. So it looks like we're seeing what I'm sharing on here. I know there's a bit to look at whenever looking into a new system. There's always a learning curve, but something I want to bring to your attention just at the start is this status update right here, as this is really important. This provides an overall summary of your program. Those who have applied on your application form, they'll land here as applicants, and then you manage them and move them throughout the process. In any of these bubbles where it shows numbers, you can simply click to see which profiles fall under this list. The way how volunteers are entered into this database here and land as an applicant most commonly is our online application form, which you can customize in our software. You can brand it, place it on your website for recruitment. So when a volunteer goes on your website, they can see all of your offerings, and then they'll answer a series of questions that you choose to place in your application form that can range from why they want to volunteer with you, how do they hear about you, what's their availability, what are their skills, what are their interests, any documents that they need to upload. And as soon as they submit the application, it's going to automatically create a profile. And then in your way, you can be notified if you want to, an email for once a new applicant lands on here. So it could look, the application form or the landing page, it can look something like this. And like I said, it's branded. You can upload your own banner. You can change the colors on here, add your socials, Facebook, X feeds. And then this just helps give the volunteer on your website a first impression of what your offerings are. So you can place a news description on here where you can drop in images, links, and then summaries of the different programs that you're offering. So that way I can learn more of where I can be a fit and get involved. And if you're to utilize this landing page, just know this actually doesn't require any technological knowledge to create, as you simply just tick boxes on the back end, and then you copy and paste or enter in descriptions for each little section on here. And once someone's on your website, they love what they're seeing, they want to commit, they can click fill in an application, and then that will lead them to where they can get started on this. In this page right here, you can also just share this page as a link in case on your website you kind of already have something laid out, and then you can just share a link that can just go right to the volunteer getting started on an application, in which you can lay out policies up here up front, as that's the first thing that they'll do is agree to any policies that you choose to lay out on here. You can even customize the wording and the phrasing on here. They agree or so to your said policies that you lay out on here. And then the volunteer's next step would be making what's called a My Impact page account. And this is going to be their best friend, because this will make their journey a whole lot easier, as it'll allow them to do things self-sufficiently, to give you more time on your hands to do more effective things, such as leading and engaging and communicating with your volunteer base. The My Impact page, even though it's available and can be done on a browser, something that's really convenient for them is there's a free app available on the Apple and Android Play Store, in which they can just utilize the mobile app to like self-schedule, update their information, take trainings, record their hours. So on the go, they can see and find any volunteer information they need to look into. The My Impact page section, this is where the volunteer will also like when they create their profile, they'll create their basic contact information here too. So you don't have to create those questions on your application form. You can just get right into the specifics, such as the availability, interests, other info that you're capturing. And if I didn't mention it earlier, as soon as the volunteer submits that application, completes that step, they can receive an email right away for what their next steps are. And you customize what that new applicant email is, so they know right away, okay, do I need to complete a background check? Do I need to complete a training, schedule an interview? They're never left hanging. They'll know what to do right away as soon as they submit. And then, as I mentioned, on your side of things, you can be chosen if you want to receive an automated email for a new applicant. So that will prompt you to sign in using your login, seeing who applied on here, in which I can click this bubble and it'll let me know who are my 4 applicants are. That's why there's a 4 on there. It populates all the volunteers' names on here. And then we can review their profile, like Mr. Henry right here, who just applied. We'll have his contact info, all of the answers he put in on his application form, which are application questions. You can find his custom fields on here, such as document uploads, responses to questions, and then the qualifications. This is a type of field in the software that you'll use to determine your non-negotiables, like your requirements to volunteer. And something really handy with this qualification field is not only does this associate with volunteer profiles, but you can also apply this on activities, which is what volunteers sign up for. Because a common way that that organization set up our software is to have it to where volunteers are self-scheduling based on activities that they have the requirements for. And then in their volunteers portal, which when we get there, they can have it set in a way where when they're seeing signups, they're only seeing types of activities that they have the qualifications for. But this is also what we can use to utilize what next steps they need to complete. Keep in mind all of these qualifications showing here, like background check, orientation. These are fields that you create yourself and that you can customize. So then that way, as we're onboarding Henry, the new applicant, we can start marking which steps he's completed, like he's passed the background check. With qualifications, you can determine if they expire, so I can enter in the date when he needs to run his background check again. Once he's completed his orientation. And then, yeah, you can just review the next steps. And as you move your new volunteer through the new process, through your onboarding process, you would move them into the next stage in process. And it's up to you to decide what exactly these steps are for a volunteer to move from one stage to another, as they'll go from in process to accepted. Once a volunteer is accepted and active, now they're a part of your program. And then just remember, just because someone's in this accepted stage doesn't mean that they can sign up for everything. It's going to be ultimately based on which qualifications that they have. And then lastly, these 2 statuses here, there's inactive and archived. So inactive are volunteers they're technically active, but they're not active right now because they're on some type of leave and they plan on returning soon. And then archived are those who are no longer with the program for whatever reason. You can still report and export archived profiles or move them back to an active status should they return. And then summarizing all this up in the status update on here, there's some helpful alerts for some key items that are brought to our attention that we need to take action on, such as qualifications that are expiring, like I mentioned. So if you remember that field where you can put in where a background check's expiring, this is the system letting us know that there's a volunteer that has a qualification that's expiring. That can be a background check, a training, and we can set how much notice we want. And then instead of looking at a spreadsheet or some other system and manually like reviewing when people's expirations are, we're alerted right away once there's something timely and expiring. And I'm a click away from sending an email to the volunteers who fall under this status alert. So I had the number 3 on here, meaning we have 3 qualifications expiring in the next 45 days. And you can set how much notice you want there. And so here they are. We have 3 volunteers. Their CPR certifications expiring. So within a click, I can send an email to one, all, update one or all, view a profile. And then we can send an email to remind them that they need to complete their CPR certification again since it's expiring. And this is probably going to be a regular type of communication. And that's why there's the ability to have email templates saved in the system, in which you have an unlimited email template library to support your communications for each scenario. And the way how you would want to save your email templates is to use first and last name placeholders. So that way this email is personalized for everybody. So I'll say, hi Ingrid, hi Ted, hi Linda, CPR certificates expiring next month. And it'll be personalized coming from the login that you're using with your admin email. And everyone else is automatically BCC'd. And once a volunteer responds, it'll naturally go in your email inbox from there, and the communications just happen naturally from email on there. I know this is a lot of info so far. I appreciate everybody hanging in there so far. Any questions in the chat, I'll address at the Q&A. I'll save around 15 minutes or so for Q&A at the end. Something I will say with all this information, one of the areas that our software stands out is our support. And I have a hard time seeing people doing support the way that we do, because if you have any quick questions, you can quickly reach out to our chat team. And currently the response times are within 3 minutes. So not only are we located in North America, but Europe and Australia. That's why those response times are so fast during the week. If you have any questions on like how to use each part of the software, there's ways for self-help too, such as maybe you want to learn how do I create volunteers activities so that way they can sign up for them and self-schedule. Just type in activities, we can find some help articles, and they'll show you step by step how to use how to build that out. If you're more of a video person rather than written article format, which many of these articles will have videos attached to them, there is a dedicated website called betterimpact.tv that has over 200 administrative training videos showing you step by step how to build out each portion of the software there too. And now just kind of wrapping up on this main page here. So there's all these different bubbles we see on here, like admin news, pin searches, which I'll discuss here in a minute. A brief little comparisons chart for hours, other data points. Just know any of these bubbles here, you can choose for your own login if you want it to appear on your dashboard and where you want it to appear. That's the little bit of customizability that you can have with your dashboard on there. But the most powerful one I would say are pin searches right here. This is one of our top features, as this gives you the ability to quickly target and communicate volunteers within seconds. So like it can be commonly be used for managing volunteers who haven't completed a step in the onboarding process, maybe for scheduling related things, like maybe we want to make a pin search to quickly send out an email or a text to volunteers, letting them know that a shift has been canceled for whatever reason. And you can build as many of these specific searches, save them on your dashboard as you'd like, and everybody's going to have their own specific searches for their login. I'm going to walk through one example on here specifically for this applicants without background check submissions. So I made a search on here to help manage the onboarding process. We have volunteers, they're in the applicant stage and they haven't completed a critical step on here, a background check. I can click this search right here and it will let me know how many profiles fall under this criteria that I've created on here. So we have 4 applicants who haven't completed a step right here, a background check. And within a click, I'll be able to send an email to remind that in order to become a volunteer, we need you to complete a background check, in which, again, you'd have your email template library to use to support your communications on here. And then it'll go to everybody's email. So it'll be personalized to Donna, Will, Graham, Henry. And all those pin searches are live in real time. So once somebody completes the background check, when we update their profile, they'll clear themselves off that list automatically. So let's dive into how this search was created on here. Remember, these can be searches for reports such as raw data reports, just quick lists, emails, texts, mailing labels. I'm just going to walk through the email example, and something that's key to know, even though I'm showing one example on here, this is going to introduce you to our searching and filtering interface. And it works the same whether we're making an email group, reporting on a group of volunteers, or something else. That's the first step, is we're always going to filter it first volunteers who fall under a specific status, such as that they're active. But in this case, we're making a pin search for applicants who haven't completed a background check. So we would check applicant first. And now we have different criteria in which we can filter by, which you can stack as many of these different filters as you like, making it as specific as needed. It can be based on their contact information. It can be based on customization. So you can even use this for reminding volunteers to upload a document that they haven't uploaded yet. And like I mentioned before, it can be scheduling related. You can filter it to those volunteers who are on the schedule for specific activity or activities that are occurring today, this week, specific date, as you can use specific dates or dynamic date searches. And any specific one you make, you can save it and pin it on your dashboard, so you don't have to go through these steps again. It can just be a quick and regular part of your communications. The background check's a qualification, so that's just what I'm walking through in this example here. And a background check, since it's a requirement, it's a qualification, and this is showing all of the qualifications we've made so far in the system. These are all customized. Let's check background check. Say it's empty because the volunteer has not completed yet. They're applying to the program. And now here's Donna, Graham, Henry, and Will again. So, and the pin search saves you from having to go through that step. So now I'm always a click away of reminding volunteers that they need to complete certain steps, or for any other relating things. As we were talking about reporting, I'll go ahead and show a really common report that's utilized, and it's very important for a lot of organizations. It's regarding hours. And instead of going to my reporting tab here, what I'll do is, there's any page you land on, you can pretty much save it as a favorite for ease of navigation. So I can go to my hours report really quick and generate these hours very fast. Like if I simply wanted, let's say, all of my volunteer hours this year, I can just select the date range where there's a built-in item already for common date ranges, like this month, last quarter, and so on. But you can always do a specific range if needed. And then, yeah, here are all of my hours in the for all the volunteers within my program for this year so far, with the most who've contributed at the top. Wendy, 568 hours, the number of entries. Grand totals are at the bottom, and it's all calculated too for the totals, the number of volunteers, average hourly output per volunteer. And it's readily exportable through Excel, Word, PDF, other formats. And keep in mind, this is looking at hours across our whole program. If we wanted, let's say we wanted to try to find hours for a specific type of volunteer, we're going to report on a specific group. And here we are again in our search and filtering. So if we wanted to find hours for a specific type of volunteer, maybe we want to check those who are currently active, they're accepted volunteers. And then with our search criteria, here they are again. Let's say they're a type of volunteer that's assigned to a specific activity, which in our demo account here, we'll check info booth attendant volunteers, since this is an example for a museum. It'll first populate the results on here. So we have 26 info booth attendant volunteers who are currently active. Let's find what those total hours are. Here are my info booth hours for this year. Here are the totals. And then just like with emails, you can save reports, so that way they save in your My Reports library. So if this were a recurring type of report that we do every month, we'll simply reload a past search and then readily export if needed. Other types of reports that are offered in this software are raw data reports. I'm using the favorites again so I can quickly get to this report. And this is commonly used if we need to export any profile information out of the software, so we can go through the same process again. Here we are, the search and filtering. So let's just say we want to look at all profiles. We can filter it as needed. And as we filter it, we can save it. So we have it in our saved library. And now it's just letting me know the profiles that meet the criteria. This is everybody. And then we can pick and choose which information we want to export out of their software, such as their name, custom fields. Maybe we want their about you information, we'll say for this example, and a whole other variety of things like their interests and availability and such. You're always able to preview these before exporting. So then that way there's a column for you to review, like a little built-in sheet for you to review before you export to Excel or CSV, where you can do some modifications before it's exported out on a spreadsheet here. Hopefully everybody's hanging in there doing well so far. I know this is quite a bit of info. The last thing I'll quickly address before jumping into the volunteers portal, as I know we're getting a little short on time, I want to leave some questions for some time for Q&A at the end. I see there's a few questions in the chat that I'll get to here in a minute. So when creating content in the software, you'll find this configuration tab is where you'll do it. Like this is where you're able to make your custom field questions, possibly for your application form or for other data points. And then for building your volunteer activities in here too, and even e-learning modules, as there's a way you can make online videos for volunteers to watch and be quizzed on. This is right now, this is showing our activities library. So this is what volunteers sign up for. And this is what's not bolded are activities that we've created so far. And what's bolded are categories in which you group, they're there for grouping purposes. So you group activities that are similar under categories for reporting and filtering purposes. Like for guest services, we have code check and info booth attendant. I can always go back and make any quick edits if I need to for any previously made activities. Once I make a new one, I can click that green button there, make a new activity, create a name for it, place it under a category now or later, set some settings for like how we want to capture hours and such, if we want to allow group signups. And then we'll see this on the volunteers portal here too. There's a pre-assigned and post-assigned description, so you can lay out content for volunteers to see and learn more about what's all involved with this new activity before they sign up. And then instructions you can in place, such as a link for Google Maps for after they sign up or any other info they need to know. And then, yeah, with each tab here, we're just simply building out the rules, since each activity can have its own sets of rules and requirements, such as if there's a shift pattern, you can customize a series of recurring shifts for any day of the week, for any time, bi-weekly, semi-weekly in some fashion, monthly, semi-monthly, and any specific pattern you create, you can determine how long the series lasts for, and can even save it as a template. So if there's another activity you create, there will be, you can just use that template instead of remaking that series again. And once you make a shift pattern, a recurring shift pattern, there's always the ability to go back and make any edits to it, such as deleting a shift if it lands on the holiday and such. And then there's ways, it doesn't have to be a recurring pattern. You can create multiple one-offs, whether it be multiple disjointed shifts, one time, seasonal, or it does not even have to have a shift pattern. It could just be whenever the volunteer is available, and they just simply record their hours in the app or clock in and clock out, depending on how you want to record hours for the activity. And then the visibility and automation here, this is how we determine who can see the activity, who can sign up for it, what the minimum and maximum number of participants are. Like I said, the common approach for a lot of activities and organizations is to allow self-scheduling for volunteers who are active and they have the qualifications, which is determined by this qualification section here. It just shows a library of all of the qualifications we've created, so then we can plug and play what the requirements are, such as maybe a background check and orientations needed for this. So once I'm an active volunteer and I have these qualifications, I can now self-schedule for this activity, should you want to set it up that way. And then lastly, you can inquire and ask other questions too, such as feedback questions. So you can inquire as a volunteer recording their hours, how many miles they've done, qualitative information such as incidents or satisfaction too, so they can rate like 1 through 5 how their shift went today. Then with that, let's jump into the volunteers portal. So I'm sharing on a browser, but remember they have the ability to utilize their portal and the app version on their phone, the My Impact Page app, free app available on Apple and Android. The environment's always going to be branded. The banner, the color schemes, just like the on the application form, are going to retain, along with socials. And right away, they're going to see important information such as summary of their hours, their upcoming shifts, and even virtual badges too. So you can make virtual badges for once volunteers hit achievements, like maybe they hit 1,000 hours for the year, or they passed certain trainings, or they've been involved with the organization for 5, 10, or 30 years. And this is just a handy little simple portal for them to see any news you want to share, any documents for them to access at their fingertips so they don't have to reach out to you, saving you all the time and making it more convenient for them. And ultimately, our goal in this whole this volunteers portal is to make it as simple as possible, because we understand there's going to be when working with volunteer programs in the community, it's really diverse. There's going to be some that are going to be more technologically savvy and others not as much. So we do our best finding that middle ground, making sure that volunteers have the ability to do things self-sufficiently while making it as simple as possible. They can always reach out to you in this contact tab if they have any questions or want any help. And then they have help articles in here too that they can lean on, showing them articles and videos, how to use each part of the portal as well. And then just walking through what a volunteer can do uh, on here in their personal portals. So one, they'll go to their opportunities tab. So they want to sign up for new activities, which they can do in a calendar or a list view. I'll just quickly show the calendar view. And remember, the common way that it's set up, it doesn't have to be set up this way, but it's most common. I'm seeing activities that I have the qualifications for on here, in which I can directly sign up for. I can filter it by a category of interest, but let's say I want to be be an info booth attendant volunteer. Here's our pre-description that you can lay out when building the activity. So I'm informed of what it takes to be an info booth attendant, and then I'll sign up if this sounds good and I want to volunteer. And when I sign up, I'll be on the schedule right away, or approval will be needed by an admin, in which one of those alerts on your dashboards will let you know if there are any pending signups that need approval. And then when I'm on the schedule, I could go to the schedule tab to see when my upcoming shifts are. But keep in mind, volunteers can subscribe to weekly email reminders for their upcoming shifts too. So then that way they don't have to come in here and see what their schedule is. They can also sync their personal calendar on here for their volunteer activities, such as Google iCal, Outlook Calendar. And then, they can record their hours here in this hours tab, in which they simply select the service that they've done, and they put in their time entries. So it took 2 hours, I put in 2 hours, and then I can answer any other feedback questions here. And when I save this, I'll be able to, it can be recorded automatically, or approval will be needed, just depending on how you want to set up this activity. And then now you can report on hours and feedback. As a volunteer, I can always come here and track my own hours and reports. So that way I know what I've done so far this year. There's a built-in summary, but I can also do my own custom date range here if I'd like to track my own hours for a specific date range. And then lastly, what I'll discuss is here's where I can update my own information, such as my own contact info, any other custom info that I create on here, as well as any trainings, should you want to utilize our e-learning module on here, in which I can take a training by like watching a video and then being quizzed on it. It doesn't have to be a video. It can be images, plain text, or GIFs like shown on here. And then I'm always going to be quizzed in multiple choice format. You set what the pass rate is, and then if I pass it, it's possible to link qualifications with these trainings. So that way I can self-check myself off the step that I've completed an orientation training, for example. And a common approach too is possibly having activities that are unlockable behind these trainings. So once I pass trainings, I can see more activities I can sign up for in my calendar. So that kind of summarizes the volunteer portal. I know that was quite a bit of information in a short time. So just letting you know, there will be in the email that you'll receive after this webinar, there will be a link to an online overview demonstration as well, to where to where you'll be able to get an overall summary as well. And then if you have any questions, you'll have my contact info too. So if you want to reach out for another meeting with me to discuss more. But yeah, let's go ahead and share some testimonials from some current customers.
So why did I select this product? It integrated with my background check product. I can tell you that the sales and customer support people are outstanding. Direct contact with a person that's talking me through all of the steps, doing training for us and my whole team. And inside the product is so much help. 24/7, you can chat with a person who's really a person. At 3 o'clock in the morning when we were first converting, I was talking, I was playing, I was trying to figure out something. I hopped onto the chat and I was thinking, there's nobody going to be around at 3 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. And lo and behold, within a couple minutes, I was talking to a guy who was on the other side of the globe, who was answering all of my questions for me. It is fun and kind, and I don't ever feel stupid. So I can't say enough about the customer support and the sales part.
Yeah, it was value for money and on budget, what we wanted. Easy to implement. We had 300 volunteers already on the books. So we were able to extract the information into a spreadsheet, and then they took it away and uploaded all the information in the right place, gave the usernames and the passwords so that we could then write out to the volunteers with. Better Impact is I call it a cradle to grave. It's an application right the way through a volunteering journey. So once they do their application form, they're already setting up their volunteer page. But the team were very, very supportive. As I said already, very, very supportive.
Why did we go with Volunteer Impact? Because there were a few other options out there for us. It's definitely an affordable management system. It was something, it actually cost us less to move towards Better Impact than it was with our former system. There were a lot of volunteer-centered features, allowing the volunteers to own their own experience. And that was something that we saw right off the bat. We had heard of some great features like self-scheduling, and how volunteers can go in and update and change their own addresses, schedule time off for vacations. So these were things that were definitely selling points for us. My impact page gives the volunteers the opportunity to absolutely own their experience with us. Everything that they need is at their fingertips. If they need extra resources or easy ways to communicate with us, it's all there through that.
I've been using Better Impact since about 2016, 2017, and I absolutely love it. My favorite part of the system, and it's really hard to actually just come up with one thing, but I would certainly focus on the personal profile reporting. You can fully customize it to get as much data as you need, as much information as you need, or as little as you need in that one report. It's incredible.
All right, so hopefully those testimonials kind of helped summarize that just why people love us, who are with us, support. Appreciate everybody joining me today, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.